Hey guys, tonight we slip behind the curtains of Constantinople not to chase emperors or chariot races, but to quietly shadow someone history rarely names, a candle maker. You'll wake with them before the sun does, hear the breath of beeswax melting, and smell the sweet smoke that lingers on their robes like memory itself. It's a story of steady hands, waxy aprons, and patient slots of patience. Of course, you probably wouldn't survive a week of this life. The heat alone would make you faint, not to mention the fire risk, the endless haggling, and the faintly alarming number of goat-based products involved in lighting a single room. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And I'd love to know where you re-listening from. Drop your city and local time in the comments. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Your eyes blink open before the first light reaches the purple tiles of Constantinople's domes. The air is heavy with warmth, even at this hour-thick, sleepy, and scented faintly of olive smoke and sea brine. Somewhere nearby, a rooster has confused time again and crows in the dark like a drunk philosopher. You swing your legs over the side of your straw-stuffed mattress and touch the cool tile with your bare feet. It's still dark, but the city's already alive in its quietest way. Oxen shifting in their stalls. A single cart rumbling over cobblestones. Distant voices mumbling in Greek and Armenian, and something half asleep in between. You pull on your rough linen tunic, stained from years of wax splashes and ash, and wrap a belt around your waist. There's a soot mark where your fingers always grip it. The candle shop awaits. You make your way down the narrow staircase, ducking under the wooden ceiling beams. Your home and shop are one and the same. Upstairs you sleep, downstairs you melt, mold, and twist light from wax. The floor creaks in protest as you tread softly over it, not wanting to wake your apprentice just yet. Poor boy burned his hand again yesterday, probably, dreaming of swordplay when he should been watching the wicks. In the courtyard outside, a neighbor is already filling buckets at the shared well, grunting softly with the effort. You exchange a sleepy no words, yet just the shared misery of early laborers. Back inside, you kneel beside the wide brass basin where the wax will melt. Beeswax, your pride and pain. More expensive than tallow, but it doesn't reek of old meat. And your more respectable clients insist on especially the monks who claim the bee's purity adds to their prayers. Historians still argue whether this was genuinely about symbolism or just about olfactory suffering. You place your hand above the empty basin, testing the air. Then you stir the ashes of last night's fire Add a few sticks and begin to coax the flames back to life. The first crackle is always the most satisfying, a dry whisper, like an old scroll being opened. Soon, the wax bricks begin to soften. You catch the scent immediately, sweet, earthy, faintly floral, like warm honey left out in the sun. It clings to everything. You smell like beeswax even when you bathe, which is not as often as you'd admit. You check the molds next. Dozens of them, each made from carved wood, shaped like everything from simple tapers to elaborate spirals and saints. Your bestseller is Saint Anna with a small flame in her palm used in childbirth prayers, especially by women who've had enough of midwives and just want divine backup. Outside, the city brightens slowly. The sky turns from black to blue to gold-tinged lavender, like it's been dipped in dye by one of the textile boys down the hill. You hear bells from the nearby monastery low, slow, and groggy. They're always late, those monks, and somehow smug about it. You glance at the door. Your apprentice should be awake by now. You swear if he oversleeps again, you'll make him stir the wax with his bare hands. Not really, of course, but you like to keep him nervous. The shop's front room is still cool from the night. The clay walls insulate well, and you run your fingers over them, tracing faint grooves from candle racks that have been in place for decades, maybe centuries. You light one of yesterday's leftovers, a crooked taper with too much weak hand. Set it in a holder near the window. It gives off a cozy flickering light, casting a soft glow on the wax blocks stacked on the shelves like pale bricks. It's quiet now, just you and the gentle bubble of the melting wax and the distant calls of vendors setting up for the day. Sometimes you wonder if this is a tiff you'll melt and pour and mold and scrape. Wax until your fingers forget what it's like to be clean. You used to think you'd apprentice somewhere else, maybe with the glass blowers by the palace walls. But fire follows you wherever you go. A knock at the door startles you. It's not time for the monk yet. You open it to see your neighbor's daughter cradling a clay pot. My mother says the lamp oil's run out. She asks for 2 tapers for the shrine. She doesn't quite meet your eye still nervous around flame-scented men. You nod and hand her 2 half-sized candles, wrapped in rough linen. She drops a few bronze coins into your bowl and hurries off. You watch her disappear down the alley, the hem of her dress darkened with dew. The apprentice stumbles in at last, hair wild and tunic inside out. You sigh theatrically. You're only late enough to be useless. Grab the ladle. He does, eyes still half shut, and begins the day's first stirring. Outside, the sunlight filters into the shop at last, golden and soft. Your world smells of bees and smoke, and the light you make will soon glow in every corner of this strange, sprawling city. The wax is nearly ready, glossy and thick, moving like molten amber in the basin. You reach for the wick rack and begin the slow, repetitive dipping. Once, twice, 15, 20 times. Each layer cools for just a moment before the next. It's a rhythm your arms know better than your mind does. Behind you, your apprentice mumbles a hymn under his breaths, something about holy fire and patience, which is ironic, given he has neither. You smirk and let him work the ladle while you inspect the molds. A few have warped from last week's heat wave. You'll have to smooth them out later with a bit of warm water and a spoon. It's not glamorous, but perfection in candles is an illusion anyway. Half your clients prefer them lopsided. Feels more humble, one monk told you once. Like it came from the soul, not the shop. The scent in the room thickens as the wax warms. You open the front door to let the morning in. The street outside bustles now. A fishmonger yells in Syriac. A boy pushes a cart full of dusty amphorae. And someone's goat has once again decided to sunbathe in front of your stoop. You'll deal with it later. Orders are due today, one from a monastery near the cistern, another for a local merchant's daughter who's marrying some bureaucrat. You pull out your wax ledger and start checking quantities. The monk's order is heavy on tapers, with 3 dozen floating votives for their indoor baptistery. That's the real trick-making. Sure, they float. You've lost whole trays to a misjudged wick weight. One time, a votive sank right in front of a visiting bishop. He claimed it was a bad omen. You claimed he sneezed and blew it under. Neither of you were entirely wrong. Mid-morning brings your first visitor, Brother Nikephoros. He's shaped like a wine barrel and smells like 1, 2. Always grumbling, always ordering the same thing. Thick beeswax candles with extra wick. They last longer, he insists, and they drip more. The women think it's holy. You nod and prepare his usual bundle. While you wrap them, he talks about the emperor's recent military campaign. You nod again, although you stopped keeping track of politics 3 emperors ago. They come and go, candles stay. As he pays, he slips in a quiet request. Any more of the ones with the gold flecks? Ah, yes, the ceremonial batch. You made a small run for Easter. Beeswax blended with crushed mica to shimmer in the light. Technically not allowed for daily worship, distracts from the iconostasis. They say, but people want spectacle with their spirituality. You fish out 3 of them from under the counter, hidden behind a sack of rejected tapers. You never saw these, you say. I never see anything before my 3rd cup of wine, he replies, and with that, he's gone. Your apprentice raises an eyebrow. Gold in candles. You shrugged. People will buy anything if it shines. Even piety. By noon, the workshop smells like a dessert gone slightly wrong. Warm wax, old wood, and a hint of singed linen. You send the boy to fetch lunch flatbread, pickled onions, and a slice of fig paste, if the vendor's in a good mood. While he's gone, you check on a mold badge. Carefully, you lift each candle from its form, inspecting for air bubbles, warped shapes, or wick slippage. A few are imperfect, but charmingly so. One even has a bit of straw stuck to the base. You pretend it's intentional. You think back to how you learned this craft. Your uncle's shop in the Armenian Quarter, the overwhelming heat, the constant fear of fire. He used to slap your wrist when you spilled a drop. Now you flick droplets of wax on the floor without a thought. Growth, the apprentice, returns, and you both sit on the cool tile floor to eat. The bread is stale, but the fig paste makes up for it. You talk idly about nothing. The color of the sea today, the sound of the neighbor's rooster, the odd rumor that one of the palace eunuchs now moonlights as a perfume seller. After lunch, you wrap up the monk's order in layers of cloth and twine. You load them onto a small cart, balancing the weight like a potter balancing wet clay. Then you and the boy set off through the crowded streets. The city is alive, now Constantinople in full roar. A mother shouts at her sons near the dye shop. A Greek trader argues with an Ethiopian merchant over fabric costs. You pass a man with a performing monkey who seems more bored than the crowd watching him. You reach the monastery without incident, and the monks take the order with the solemnity of a funeral. One of them even blesses the bundle. You're not sure it needs it, but you bow anyway. You leave. The boy tugs your sleeve. Can we go by the harbor? You consider it. The walk's longer, but the air is better. There, less smoke, more salt. You agree? The docks are busy with ships, Egyptian grain barges, sleek Persian trade boats, and a single Western cog flying a tattered Venetian flag. The smell here is sharper brine and fish and old rope, but invigorating. You pause to watch a sailor patching a sail with threads so fine it looks like spider silk. Your apprentice stares, mouth slightly open. I've never left the city, he mutters. You don't answer. You just hand him a candler, small one, twisted like a shell, with a wick so short it'll burn fast. Here, you say, for when you do. He tucks it into his satchel like it's gold. Back at the shop, the sun angles lower. The afternoon breeze rattles the wooden shutters, and you start prepping for tomorrow's batch. The apprentice dozes briefly on a stool, his face illuminated by the lazy sway of a hanging candle. You don't wake him. The light's soft, and the wax will wait. You let the apprentice sleep for a few more minutes. He's drooling slightly, which means he's truly at peace or dreaming about olives again. Either way, you work quietly, sorting the day's leftover wax and trimming the finished candles. Some will go back in the bins, some like the ones that cooled crooked will be sold half price to a particularly stingy nun who insists flame dose and tea care about symmetry. Then comes the knock, 2 sharp taps, then a pause, then one mara rhythm you've come to associate with petty urgency. It's the fishmonger, smelling, predictably, like mackerel and salt, holding a sack with candle orders wrapped in cabbage leaves, which makes you gag a little. 4 for the cart, 5 for the shrine, and 1 to keep the cats out, he says, without even saying hello. You blink. Since when do cats fear fire? They don't, but my wife does. She says the flame purifies the fish smell. I say the fish smell purifies me. You don't argue. You fill the order, toss in an extra stub, and send him on his way with a grunt and a waxy wink. Once the street quiets again, you decide it's time to stretch your legs. You tell the boy to stay and mind the wax. He looks less than confident, but he's due for a bit of trust. Besides, most of the molds are set for the day, and you've hidden the good stuff. The streets bend and pulse around you. Constantinople isn't a grid so much as a pile of secrets and shortcuts. The shops are out in full displaces from Syria, polished amphorae from the Aegean, even some silk that you're almost certain is smuggled. You pass the herb seller's stall and buy a pinch of crushed lavender and rose to scent a few votive batches. Customers love a good-smelling miracle. And anyway, the rose helps mask that odd Thames beeswax sometimes picks up in summer. You make your way to the northern edge of the Forum, where monks from the Church of the Holy Wisdom await your delivery. The sun blazes overhead now, bouncing off the marble buildings and gilded mosaics like some divine tanning lamp. You shade your eyes and push forward. The monk on duty today is younger than most. No beard yet, just the start of one, and a look that says he takes parchment too seriously. He eyes your bundle, then eyes you, then eyes your sandals, like he, as deciding whether or not you re-holy enough to step on their sacred tile. You're the wax man, he finally says. You nod, and you're the robe that talks. Just barely progress. You unpacked the delivery. Thick pillar candles for the narthex, slim ones for processions, and a few ornate ones with wax halos sculpted around the top. These took forever to make, and you hope they're not melted by the time anyone notices. As you lay them out, the monk runs a finger over one. You sent these, rose and lavender, for holiness, for noses. You want holiness, burn incense. He actually chuckles at that, and you mark him as less insufferable than expected. He thanks you awkwardly and even tips you a small copper coin. Normally, monks don't tip. They just bless things and walk away like that's currency. You step back outside, blinking in the afternoon glare. You take a long breath, and for a moment, the mix of city smells, bread, salt, distant figs, and a horse who clearly had no shame feels almost poetic. You consider stopping for a bite, but a voice calls your name before you can. It's Callista. You haven tea. Seen her in a few weeks. She is a noble niece who buys candles for special dinners and saintly holidays, and always insists on the ones with scalloped edges. She claims they're more elegant. You suspect she just likes the shadows they cast when gossiping over wine. Today, she's in a pale blue dress with her hair pulled back and just enough attitude to cause problems. I need 6 tapers by sunset, she says. A small gathering, religious. Of course. Of course, you echo, trying not to laugh. She leans in, also 1 extra shorter. 4. Ambiance. You raise a brow, romantic ambience or dramatic ambience. She shrugs, depends how the lamb turns out. You promise the candles will arrive by late dusk. She waves you off like she's releasing a well-trained pigeon. On your way back, you pass a man hawking bronze oil lamps and muttering about the fall of the Western Empire like it happened yesterday. You sidestep a street preacher, greet an old woman selling figs, and finally return to your shop where your apprentice is, boiling wax, too hot. You rush over and yank the ladle from his hand just before the mixture bubbles over. Too hot, and the wax clouds, you scold. I thought hotter meant faster. No, hotter means you get slapped with a spoon. He lowers his eyes, and you sigh, then hand him a spoon. Here, stir gently, pretend it's soup for a bishop. He smiles at that. Progress. As the day slips toward golden hour, you work on Callista's tapers. You even carve a scalloped base into one, just for effect. You dip, cool, dip again. Rhythm, steady. 1 candle at a time. The light returns to its resting shape. The windows take on an amber hue. Outside, shadows stretch long and soft over the worn stones of the alley. The goat has returned, of course, and is now chewing something that once resembled a sandal. The final batch sits cooling on the racks. You wipe your hands on your apron and exhale slowly, the smell of wax and lavender hanging in the warm air, like a hymn unsung. 1 more delivery tonight. Then you can rest. Maybe. The light is fading now, and your fingers ache in that familiar way, as though every joint has been quietly whittled down by the day's tasks. You and the boy sit briefly on overturned crates, stiffen in their cooling racks. Outside, the street turns amber and then dusky blue. It's time for the evening delivery. Callista's candlesticks, tall tapers, and one short. Moody one are wrapped in waxed cloth and tucked into a reed basket. The scalloped edges came out nicely, and the wax took the scent well. Just a hint of rose. Nothing too obvious. You suspect she pretend the smell is natural, like she was just born luminous and fragrant. You sling the basket over your shoulder and set off. The boy trailing behind with a bundle of kindling and a loaf of leftover bread. The streets are still alive, though softer now. Lanterns flicker to life, one by one, each haloed by their own little swarm of moths. The city seems to hold its breath between the bustle of day and the silence of night. Callista's villa is just past the church of Saint Irene, tucked behind a marble courtyard that smells perpetually of wet stone and roasted almonds. A servant lets you in with a nod. He knows you by now, though he pretends he doesn't. You enter quietly, following the corridor lit with oil lamps and the sounds of plates being clinked, laughter floating through from a side room. Somewhere a lyre plucks a slow, syrupy tune. It's the kind of music meant to sound accidental, like the background noise of an elegant dream. You deliver the candles to the kitchen, where Callista is overseeing a fig tart with the intensity of a general planning a siege. "Perfect," she murmurs, peeking into the basket. "These will do nicely." "That short one, it's got a mood to it. I made it scowl just for you," you say. She grins, then waves you off with a flick of her flour-dusted fingers. You and the boy step back into the dusk. The fig tart smell follows you for half a block. Back at the shop, it's quieter now. The heat has eased, the wax has cooled, and the city sighs in that particular way only Constantinople can, like an old god exhaling into his pillow. You pull the shutters closed and light 2 small candles for the front window, your version of a "we reclose" sign. Then you turn to the day's final task, a rush order from a widow who needs votives for a vigil. Her husband passed 2 nights ago, and she asked for 12 small floating lights, one for each year we shared. She said, voice steady, eyes somewhere else entirely. You start the process again, built a fresh block, add a pinch of lavender and a sliver of rosemary. She wanted them to smell like the garden he used to tend. Your apprentice watches silently, then begins to shape the wicks. He's improving. Less wax on the floor this time. As you pour the wax into the shallow clay molds, you remember the last vigil you attended. Not for a person, for a friend's shop that burned down. Candles too close to a curtain. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. You still think about that smell, sometimes charred wood, old wax, something bitter. The votives cool quickly in the night air. You trim the wicks, polish the edges, and pack them in a small wooden box, padded with strips of wool. You'll deliver them at dawn. The apprentice yawns. You can go, you tell him. He hesitates. You sure? I'll finish up. Besides, your snoring scares the bees. He laughs sleepily and shuffles out into the dark, clutching the last of the bread. You lock the door behind him and lean against it for a moment. Your legs are tired. Your hands feel like warm clay. You cross the shop slowly, checking everything one last time. Wick bundles tied, molds cleaned, wax scraps stored. A soft clatter in the back tells you a rat has knocked something over again. You'll deal with it tomorrow. You light a single candle on the workbench, the last one made today. Simple, straight. Smells faintly of honey and ash. You sit beside it in silence. This is your favorite part of the day. The noise gone. The tools resting. The light yours alone. Tomorrow will bring more orders, more wax burns, more gossip disguised as divine business. But for now, there's only this, a soft flame, a cool breeze through the half-shuttered window, and the quiet knowledge that your hands have made something that will light the corners of someone else's sorrow, or celebration, or solitude. Later, in your narrow upstairs room, you lie on your back, staring at the rafters. The candle you brought up flickers gently from its place in a shallow niche, throwing shadows that sway like lazy ghosts across the wooden beams. The wax drips slowly down its side, pooling in the cracked ceramic dish below. The city murmurs beyond your shuttered window. You can hear sandals slapping cobblestones, the occasional bark of a dog, and a flute playing somewhere in the distance, probably a group of students drunk on cheap wine and philosophy. Constantinople never truly sleeps. It just shifts its weight from one elbow to the other. You stretch out your sore arms, your wrists speckled with faint wax burns in various stages of healing. Some have scars, white, shiny. Others are fresh, pink, and tender. It's a kind of journal written on your skin. Your stomach growls softly. You didn't eat dinner. Again, there's still a bit of dried fig in the cupboard, left over from last week's market run. You break off a piece and chew it slowly. It tastes like dust and summer. You think about that fig tart in Callista's kitchen and try not to feel anything. The flame beside you dances a little higher, catching a breeze that slips through the crooked window frame. You watch it for a while. You start to count the days until the next festival, one of the rare times your work becomes something people celebrate. The Church of the Holy Wisdom will need altar candles the size of tree trunks. The markets will want spirals and colored tapers. Every household will pretend they can afford beeswax for just one night. It's exhausting and lucrative, but for now, all that can wait. You lie still, eyes half closed, listening to the candle hiss and sputter slightly as it meets a hidden pocket of air. You think about the apprentices you've trained, the clients you've served, the hours you've poured literally into this quiet life. Nobody tells stories about candle makers. No marble statues, no ballads, but the light they make, that flickers in palaces, temples, and tenement windows alike. And maybe that's the point, to be the thing that helps others see. You reach over and pinch the wick. Darkness settles like velvet. And just like that, you sleep.